look at an area like this, okay? This ground is rough as rats. So it's ideal bass fishing, but this says to me, weedless fishing. Now, I do like working the bottom, and it's rough as rats, as I said, and this is where I like the weedless version of the Savage Minnow. If you go chucking a J-hook lure on the bottom there, you're going to snag up. Now you can still snag a weedless lure, but my chances are far less, and I can work the bottom. Then also I can swim that weedless lure like a hard lure without worrying about it snagging up. You see here, I'm just fishing the Savage Minnow like I would a hard lure. If I want to get up a little bit shallower, I'll bring that rod tip up. But if I do bump the bottom, swimming it like this, I'm not really worrying too much about snagging up. We got a shape of jig head that was designed to do multiple things at once. When it swims like this, that jig head combined with the paddle tail promotes a really intense rolling action. But also it lets me do this really well with that weedless setup as well. I'm going to cast out, stop my reel, I'm going to let that lure hit the bottom, which makes no sense on really rough ground. Bang, just felt the bottom then, okay? And I'm now working that lure along the bottom. Now I could lose it, but my chances are minimal with the weedless design. If I put I promise you, if I put a J-hook, if I put a J-hook in there, I'd last about a second. See, the hook stays nicely tucked out of the way. That jig head, I can feel it. It's lovely on the bottom, you can feel it. I'm almost going to hop him, or I'm going to swim him close to the bottom. See, there I was going boom, boom like that, so I'm almost hopping that lure. This time, I'm going to hit the bottom, I'm going to get my rod tip up, but I'm going to swim the lure along the bottom slowly, just inside that rock. Let it hit the bottom. Tap, there we go. And I'm going to swim this slowly, literally along the bottom. And I'll feel bang, 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 tap, tap, tap from the rocks. But it's that hard thump over, that's what you want from the bass. And if you feel like they're just almost trying to get snagged, just wrench it away. But this is where that weedless design is absolutely critical. You know, I fish it enough, I trust 1000% that weedless hooks catch me bass. I'm not worried about that. And obviously you're still going to pick up weed. You know, that weedless design is not designed to pick up, you're still going to pick up floating weed in the water. That weedless design is putting the hook away and letting you fish through anything. And then I'll cast out now and swim like a hard lure. Like that. God, they cast so well. And that now is essentially a hard lure with a big single hook tucked away. So if I do bang into a rock or a pinnacle, my hook point's protected. There, so I just bumped a rock then, you see, up and over it. But that's what I want. I'm using the weight of the lure and that jig head, the weedless design, I'm using it to search the entire water column. These Savage weedless minnows come in 6 different colors and 2 different sizes. This one is the 12.5 centimeter and it weighs a total of 28 grams, okay? Then there's the 10 centimeter one and that weighs 16 grams. You need to be a little bit careful here, okay? Because remember, for this one, the 12.5 centimeter is 28 gram total weight, as in, you will see on the bottom of the jig head, it says 18 grams. So don't go mistaking the lure for being 18 grams and then cast it on a really, really light rod. The jig head is 18 grams, which means the weight of the actual soft plastic body itself is 10 grams. So just be careful on certain rods. When you come to take the Savage Minnow out of the packet, you might be wondering, well, there's a couple of toothpicks. Now, we are not suggesting you've got to go and clean your teeth. These are actually a vital part of the rigging. So before I take these lures apart and put them back together again, show you how to rig them, don't go throwing those toothpicks away. We are going to use them. On the weedless Savage Minnow, there are essentially 3 components, okay? You've got a weedless hook, you've got your jig head, and you've got the body of the lure itself. Now, the first thing I'll do to rig it is I will secure the hook to the head. Now, this takes a bit of effort, and that's very deliberate, so it doesn't come off when you're fighting a fish. See the way that, it's not like that. That's what you think, oh, it should go like that. It doesn't. Like that. Reverse it, on. Now I'm going to force it and you're going to hear an audible click when that is in that loop. See that? All right. I'm going to take the lure body. There's a slot in the top of the body of the lure which lines up with that spike coming off the back of the jig head. All you do is take that, push that in, then there's already a gap in the bottom there to allow for the hook. Now, this is where the toothpick comes in, okay? We are basically giving you 2 different ways to secure that lure body to the back of the jig head. The toothpick is ingenious, it's so simple, but you don't have to do it, okay? If you prefer to glue, put a dab of super glue there, and that head will hold to the body. The toothpick method is really clever and it's so simple, and you will see there is a hole in that spike that comes out the back of the jig head. Then there's a hole in the lure body. Those marry up, okay? So no glue here. All I do is put the toothpick, put it through, okay? Now, I can't move it, okay? Obviously, I don't want a great big toothpick sticking out the side of my lure. So what I'm going to do is take my pliers and my cutters. I'm going to cut down tight. Cut down tight. I'm going to keep the toothpick, obviously, for another lure. Then, I'm going to take the weedless hook in through the mark in there. Look at that. And that's it. That toothpick method is just, you know, I've been on a boat before, guys are catching fish and I've had to glue their lures back onto the jig head, and I've been using so much glue I've stuck my fingers together and had to cut them apart with a knife. I now do not carry super glue when I'm using the Savage Minnow or the sand eel weedless. I use this toothpick method, and to me it works perfectly. You'll notice a couple of things about this, okay? That is deliberately articulated for extra movement. And then the jig head, the actual jig head itself, we've done a lot of work on this because we started off with your conventional, kind of more pointed jig head, and it swung beautifully. But I really want this lure, especially the weedless one, I need to be able to work that along the bottom, either over rock or let's say bumpy in current, okay? That pointy kind of jig head, look, it works, but I found it was kind of digging in a bit too much. So we've worked on this and we've basically flattened the chin, which actually then we found really helps the way the lure swims. It adds an extra roll to go with the paddle tail working. It wants to sit like that. and then go bump, like that. And because it's not too pointy here, I've found over a lot of fishing time that really is hardly snagging up at all. And then this head bumps beautifully off the rocks and off the sand. It just seems to work really well. Look, you can still lose a lure in the foulest, most evil ground, but this, I really like the way it works over all kinds of ground, bumping it on the bottom.